So, hello all. A warm welcome to all of you on sorry on the day third of CSS Beginners to Advanced series. I hope my voice is clear to all of you, and the screen sharing is also on, so that you all will be able to see it properly. 1 minute. So we'll wait for some minutes. Let some more people join. Then we will start with CSS Grid. So today is the last day, and today we will be completing the CSS Grid. CSS Grid may be a little bit longer, and we will also doing a project in the last. The project will be very small, so that you will get an idea as how to place flexbox, how to place grid, where to place what. So in order to have an idea, that project has been prepared, and there will be separate attendance sheet today, so you all can fill it. Okay, let me share the WhatsApp group link also. So you all can join the WhatsApp group also with this link. This link will be very helpful for you, because you will get all the updates what is going on in the channel and what is being scheduled. So just a small recap. Monday we had covered the CSS basics part, which contains the display property of display float, display grid. Tuesday we have covered the CSS Flexbox. Wednesday no class. Today is a Thursday, and today we will be covering CSS Grid part, and also a very small project which is there, which we will be covering at the last. So today's class may be a little bit lengthy, maybe of 1 hour, 1 hour 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That depends. But today we will cover the CSS Grid. So let us wait for some time, or let us start now, because it's already 3 minutes gone. Let's wait for 2 more minutes. And I hope you all have a very happy Dashera and Vijayadashmi in your local place. So happy Dashera to all of you. So I have already done my setup for the grid. The VS Code is open. Index.html, style.css is there. Let me link it. Okay. So today we will be doing live in the VS Code in the Firefox Developer Edition, in order to view some different properties which is available only and only in Firefox Developer Edition. So 1 second. So let us start now. So today we will be starting with CSS Grid, and as I have told you earlier, CSS Grid and CSS Flexbox both are basically the display properties of CSS. So and as I've told you earlier also, that Flexbox is a limitation. Flexbox has a limitation that it works only in one direction. We need to declare the direction for the main axis and the cross axis where we want to change it. So but in CSS Grid, this issue has been resolved. It works on both the direction. That means it divides whole of the web page into rows and columns. Sorry. So grid divides whole of the web page into rows and columns, and grid makes your web page responsive. So that is the main reason grid is being used a lot, because it helps to make your web page responsive. And grid is being added in 2015. Earlier the block and float properties was there. And one more thing I would like to share. So let us start with CSS Grid. CSS Grid, CSS Flexbox, both are governed by W3 School, as I've told you earlier also. And in W3 School manages the maintenance operations of all these things. And W3 School is situated or located in US. One second. So Mm, okay, so let us start with I have a basic structure here which contains a parent class as container, and have independent items from 1 to 10. So today we will have a different kind of attendance sheet which will be there in front of your screen after some time. So this is a basic structure. As I've told you earlier, Control A, Control Shift P, format selection. So everything will get formatted and looks in a very proper manner. Similarly, Control A, Control Shift P, selection is formatted. Now, what we will do here? Now, let us have our code for the container with CSS Grid. One second, Control S dot display. Sorry. Display will be grid. So nothing will happen. Why? Because as I've told you, grid divides whole of your page into rows and columns. So we need to declare rows and columns separately. So now let us declare GTC is for grid template column. So let us declare 200px and 500px. So what has happened here? We have declared two columns, one of 200px and another of 500px. So you can see two columns. Now let us declare grid template rows GTR. So we have declared three rows and two columns. So it contains these thing only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what is there for 7, 8, 9, and 10? So here, as I've told you, grid system is very responsive system which helps you to reduce the use of media queries. Now here, what has happened? These 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now let us have grid gap also of 5p x. So grid gap means the lines between the items. Now let us see what has happened here. We have 10 items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, 10. But we have declared rows and columns only for 6 items. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, what has happened here for 7, 8, 9, and 10, depending upon the size of the item the which is inside the cell, this is called as a cell, the space has been allotted to them. Now, what is this then? Because if you see here, we have declared only 2 columns and 3 rows. So depending upon the size, the the space has been allotted to rest of the items. And here, if you see, uh, so let me show you this inspect option. So here, see here, if you focus here, you can see two type of lines. If you focus here, you can see two type of lines. Fine. So the lines are, one is of dash and another is of dot. So these are called as implicit tracks and explicit tracks. Okay. So if you see here, between item 1 and 3, this is the dash, and which is called as a explicit tracks. This is an interview question, my dear friends. This is the explicit tracks. And here, if you see here, between item number 7 and 8, these are dots, which are called as a implicit tracks. Fine. Implicit tracks being represented by dots, and these implicit tracks are created by the grid system, and explicit tracks, which are identified by dash, these are created because we have declared grid template columns and grid template rows. Now, for this item number 7, 8, 9, and 10, where we have such kind of scenario where we want to add spaces to the unidentified items, so there is a property which is called as a grid auto row. So for such kind of items, we have declared the grid auto row property, where you can find the space for 7, 8, 9, and 10 will be 150px, because we have declared for such items it will be 150px. Now let us switch to the next property, which is called as the auto flow. So by default, if you see here, any new item which we will create will come below item number 1. So this is a by default nature which applies here. But if we want the new item to come by the side of item number 2, so there is a property. See, as soon as I have added the new item, it comes below item number 1. But there is a property which is called as a grid auto flow, which helps to add the new item by the side of item number 2. So let us apply grid auto flow. Sorry. And so grid auto flow is column, but one second. Here, why we have already declared row. So let me comment out. So see, if we have, as soon as I add the new item, it will come automatically by the side of 2 with the help of grid auto flow property. Now, grid auto flow property will help to add the new item by the side of the next item, not below the first item. Now, let us see the sizing of tracks in grid, how the sizing of tracks will be happening here. So for this, let me do one thing. So the basic structure I have changed now, and this is also not required. So I saved it. Now you want grid wrap only of 20 pixels. So the item will look like one below the another. Now let us use the percentage to size the column first. So we use grid template column GTC. Always try to use the shortcuts. 25%, 25%, 25%, and 25%. So if you see here, the last of the item, the last of the column 4, 8, and 12. If you focus closely here, the last of the item are actually touching the sidebar. See, it is actually touching the sidebar. Why? Because here we have 25% into 4 is 100% plus 20 px, which is 120 px. So that is why, that is the reason we, that is the reason it is not looking perfect or it is not looking good. Because if you compare 1, 5, 9, and 13 with 4, 8, and 12, it, the first column looks more good compared to the last column, because the last column touches the sidebar. So for this, CSS Grid introduce a new unit which is called as a FR, which is the free space left after the explicit width are laid out. A typical type of thing, but let us take you through a practical thing. So let us have one thing. Let us have the basic CSS, and now we are also using a border to get the space taken up by the grid. So here we have two explicit width column of 200 px and 150 px. So let us apply two columns, 200 px and 150 px. We have applied. Now declared a border of 5p. And so let me change it to black. Okay. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so we have declared items like this. Now what we will do here, now if you see the free space left here, so for this let us use the unit 1 FR. So if you see here, the free space, or I can say the leftover free space, is totally being utilized by this FR unit. Similarly, you can have another column with 2FR. 2FR means twice of the free space or I can say twice of the left after free space is being utilized by the last column, and first portion will be used by the second last column. Now let us add the auto property here. So we will have auto property. So in this auto property, if you see here, depending upon the size of the content, the space will be allotted. So let us increase the space of item number 5. See, depending upon the size of the space, depending upon the size of the item, the space is being allotted. So moving back. Now what we will see next, one second. Okay, so now let us add the repeat functionality here, because the use of repeat with auto makes the CSS grid very powerful. 1 minute. So now let us add the repeat functionality. So I want repeat 2 times of 1 FR and 2 FR. So see, auto repeat 2 times of 1 FR, 2 FR, 1 FR, 2 FR. Okay. So first column is auto, second column is 1 FR, 2 FR, 1 FR, 2 FR. So this is how this functionality will work. Now the repeat function can only be used, the repeat function can be used in another way also. If we have what we can add here, if we have 2 times of 1 FR, 2 FR, another of 1 FR, so we can have the output like that. So auto 2 times of 1 FR, 2 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR, 2 FR, 1 FR. So it will be like that. Now what else is left in grid? Okay, so now let us have okay, so we have just seen about the sizing of grid items in this. Now if you remember the flex box, we have to select an individual item and add the property. If you remember, we have to select the individual item and add the property, which is flex one, like that. Now let us increase our HTML structure to 1 minute. To 30 items. So we have a parent container and individual 2 classes given to every item. Okay, fine, perfect. Now what we will do here, we will use the repeat functionality of 5 times of 1 FR. So see how beautifully 5 columns has been created. Okay, now let us target this item number 9. So item number 9, dot item number 9, will change the color to Which color will have the orange? Right, so that it looks differently. And let us change the width to 500 px. So why 500 px? So I will show you, because if you see here, by default we have taken the size of one fr, but for this particular item number 9 we have changed this to 500 px. Now if you see here, what item number 9 did here, this have disturbed the whole of the column. If you see here, we have changed the size of only item number 9, but this item number 9, in spite of changing themselves, they disturb the whole set of columns. So we can get some kind of situation here. So in order to overcome this, from this we will have a functionality which is called as the grid column, and we will use a function called of span of 2. So you can see twice of the space will be given to the item number 9 without disturbing the whole of the column. So this is how it works. So now let us add this to row also. So we will use grid row span of 3 or span of 4. So let us see. Okay, 1 2 3 4. So 4 rows will get merged into one. So this is how it will work like that. Now there are some more ways in order to have this functionality. So let us try those. So we will have grid column start. So we want the merging to start from the column perspective. We want to start from 1 and 2. So it starts from 2. Okay, so it have taken their position from 2, and we want grid column end. So 1 2 3 4 5. So it was okay. So 1 2 3 4 5. So you can see here, this is 2 3 4 and 5. Similarly, you can have this for row also. Okay, so you can have a view. So it starts from the row 2, which is this, and ends at row 5. So 2 3 4 and 5. So it ends at 5. So this is how this functionality will work. So let us have another shortcuts for this, because you never know which one you will be using. So we have grid column. I want this to start from 2 and end at 5. So it starts from 2 and end at 5 in the same line of code. So and we have grid row starts from 1 and at 6. See, it starts from 1 and at 6. So this is how you can apply the merging kind of thing with the help of grid row and grid column property. Now let us see the autofill and autofit property here in CSS Grid. So what is this autofill and autofit property? Autofit and autofill property are almost very similar properties, like classes and IDs, I can say, because both are used to target an element. But here autofill property is used with repeat function. Okay, Autofill property is used with repeat function and it is used by grid to fit as many as possible items in the same row without moving on to the next row. So let me have let me do the setup for this. Okay, so now let us see grid autofill. So grid, as I've told you, grid autofill is used with repeat functionality. So for this, fill, and here what we will take the 150px. So here if you see, let me change the screen resolution. See, so as I've told you, grid autofill property is used with repeat function and it tries to fit as many as possible items in the same row without moving on to the next row. See, mobile view, tablet view, and desktop view. Fine. So this is how you can use the auto fill functionality. Now if you see here, now let us see Autofit. So Autofit and Autofill are almost very similar, but there is a difference. And in order to understand in order to understand the same, let us reduce the number of items to, so let us reduce the number of items to 4. Sorry, and let us open the inspect column now, because all these things you will never get to have in any of the other. Now here if you see, we have a displays grid gap of 20 px. 1 second. So we have grid gap of 20 px, border is there, and grid template column we have repeat autofill functionality with 150 px. So now what we will use here, if you see here, the dark line shows where the grid start and end. So these dark line shows where the grid start and end, and you can see the grid ending at track 8. We can fit additional items also here. So here the grid ends at track number 8 and we can fit additional items also here. So for this, let's change this to auto fit. So we have changed this to auto fit. Now if you see here, the grid ends where the item ends and we cannot fit additional items here. So if you see here, in the auto fit functionality, the grid ends where the item ends and we cannot fit the additional items here. Now let's add a property to item number 4. So this item number 4, here, dot item number 4, and we will have grid column end 2 minus 1. So if you see here, you see here in this item number 4, this item number 4 have shift towards the end, which will be very helpful for you to design the menu items where you have some 2 or 3 items in the left and one item like of contact us, about us, like that in the right. So with this functionality, autofill and autofit, you can prepare your menu items very easily. Now, min-max, another property in CSS which is called as a min-max, is also used. One second. No, yes. Now, another property which is called as a min-max, which is also used, and and min-max is a property. How should I define it? Min-max is also used with auto fill, and as I've told you, repeat functionality with auto becomes very powerful. So with this, min-max along with autofill becomes very powerful concept, which makes your site more and more responsive without the much usage of media queries. So now let us have another grid here. So for understanding purpose, let us change. So we have the different class name here. So dot min-max container. So let us apply the min-max functionality. So we will have here display grid, and we have grid gap of 20px, and in the border side we will have 4px of solid green color, and we will declare grid template column with repeat and auto fill, and repeat with autofill, and we will add $100px. Now what I will add here, one second. So we have items like this. Now let us add the min max functionality here. So here min-max max of 150px, 1fr. Now if you see here, now if you see here what has happened, two type of spaces we have given here. Either it will take 150px or 1fr. So depending upon the size of the content, it will take up the next available space, which is between 150px and 1fr. So now what else we can add here? So is in this desktop view, let me change desktop view. In this desktop view, the items are sort of at one side. So if you see here, so let me close this now. All the items are, if you see here, all the items are switched to one side. So, okay, so if you see here, and there is a lot of empty space being there, so we can fix this problem with the help of autofit property, and let's change our code to use autofit now. So here we will use the autofit functionality and see, with the help of autofit functionality, the leftover space is being used and no free space is being available here. So this is how you can use the free leftover free space very quickly and very easily. See, the leftover free space is being divided equally among all. So that makes the CSS grid more and more responsive without the very less use of media queries. So one second. Okay, now let us use the grid column and grid row concept to place items here. So in this we will use very powerful concept of grid, which is called as a grid template areas to place item. So for this, let me have a change in my code. So this is a, one second, let me open the inspect column here. Okay, so if you see here, we have two sidebars, sidebar 1, sidebar 2. This is the footer and this is the main content. So one second, now it is perfect. So we have a sidebar, another sidebar, a center content, and a footer. So here now we will have the grid layout, which uh, they have three columns and three rows. So now let us declare them. Display grid gap of 20 px, grid template column of 1 fr, nfr, and 1fr. So three columns we have created. Similarly, we will create three rows also. Grid template rows of 150 px, 50 px, and 100 px. So here, if you notice here, we have declared three columns and three rows where we will be placing our content. Now, let us have two sidebars, one main content and one footer layout here. So we will do this with the help of grid template areas and have the format like this. So we will use, see, See, now it is perfectly clear. So here will be the footer. This will be the sidebar 1. This will be the center content. This will be the sidebar 2. So this is how we will be placing our items with the help of grid template areas. So now what we will do here, we will target each and every item and place it. Dot footer, we will use the grid area and we will use footer. So footer will come in their place very easily. So similarly, you can use this for rest of the items also, like so. Here is our content which is like, so let us use it. Okay, so this is the sidebar 1, the sidebar 2, the center content and the footer, which is placed here very smoothly. Fine, 1 second. So now let us see the next thing. So let us see the next thing, which is the legendary masonry layout. And for this thing, let me change the code here, because here we will be tried to see the placing of items, but the items will be of different shapes and different size. One second. So we have here 70 items and let me remove all these things. So we want what we want here. So we are looking for, so here mm, 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 mm. Okay, so we have here 70 items. So now let us try to fix, no, so let us try to add some irregularities first, and then we will be trying to, after adding the irregularities, we will be trying to add or place those items. So let us declare first the grid template columns with the repeat functionality of 10 times of 1FR. So we have created 10 columns of 1FR. So now let us create some irregularities here in some of the items using, okay. We have created some irregularities here. The irregularities will be like the span functionality, what we have learned just now. Now, if you see here, we have 70 items and we want to place all those items. So we will have a functionality called grid auto flow dense. And here, if you see, all the 70 items have been placed very properly in the space allotted. So let me do one thing also here. See, as I've told you, grid is very responsive. Responsiveness means depending upon the size of the screen, it adjusts themselves. Now, if you see here, and if you try to read with me, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where is 6? 6 is below 1 to 5. 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 11 is below 8, 13 is below 8. So here, the most important thing which I want to tell you is grid. In this legendary masonry layout, the sequence is not guaranteed. Fine. Your entire items will get placed accordingly, but you cannot guarantee the sequence, because here if you see, with the help of this single line code, which is the grid auto floatness, the entire set of grid is placed here, but the sequence is not guaranteed. Depending upon their logic or their calculation, they have placed the content, but the sequence here is not being guaranteed. So that is why it is called as the legendary masonry layout. But always try to use this thing when you don't have to maintain the sequence. Okay, so now so now let us see the very important concept of CSS grid, which is called as the CSS grid alignment and centering. So if you remember, we have seen this concept in CSS Basics also, CSS Flexbox also, and again in CSS Grid also we will be looking this now. So now let us start with the CSS Grid alignment and centering. So what is this alignment and centering? Alignment and centering, as the name says, placing something, putting something like that. So let us see what are the ways in which we will be able to do this. So we have similarly the same set of rules or the same set of values and properties, which are called as the justify item, align item, justify content, align content, like that. So let us see, one second. So let me do the changes in my structure HTML. So Control A, Control Shift P, format selection. So your entire code will get placed beautifully. So this is again an example of legendary masonry layout where your entire set of rules will get placed automatically. So now what else is required here? So we will start with this is not required. One second. So now what we will do? Let us. Okay. So we will have justify content, justify item, align item, and justify self, align self, like what we have seen in Flexbox. So now, as I've told you, CSS Grid does not have a flex direction property like Flexbox. So justify works on row level and align works on column level. Okay. So let us see how it works now. So we have the items like this, and here we will have the let me remove all this thing dot container, and we will use a display as grid, and in this grid we will have grid gap of 20px, and we will declare grid template column with repeat functionality of 10 times of one bar. 10 times. Okay, sorry, something. 10 times of 1 fr. So here we are. Now what we will do, we will start with the justify item. So in order to view the movement, let me open the inspect option so that you will have a clear idea of where the item is moving. So as I've told you, justify works on row level. So let us see the value of justify. So we will have the justify item start. So entire thing will be in the start, and so entire thing have shift towards the end. Please focus on the item part. So 1 second, let me change the color of the items also. Color to white so that you can view properly. Now the next property will be the center, and after that the last property will be the stretch. Now we will see the align item property. So we'll fix this to card, and here what we will do, we will see the align item property. So the align item property, we have to declare the grid template rows also. Same repeat 5 times of 100px, and but for this what we will do, we will use the align item start. So here let me correct this also. So here align item start, align item end. See, item shift toward the end, align item center, and if you put this also center, so the item will be in a perfect center position. See, justify item, align item center, the item will be in a perfect center position. So now the last item, the last property will be the stretch property. So let us see that also. Fine. So now let us see the justify content property now. So how justify content will work? So as I've told you, justify works on row level. So they are generally used when your total size of the grid is less than the size of the grid container. So very typical thing. So let us see in a practical way. So we will do first the justify content in order to make the grid size less. So let us see. Let me do some correction. So we have changed like that. Now also let me reduce some items here. Okay. Okay. So now the item. Let me change the background. So now let us start with the justify content. So the justify content have values similar to justify item, but here we have some increased values. So the values are start and center, stretch, space around, space evenly, and space between. So let me start with the justify content part first. So justify content part. So everything by default in the start only, and center, stretch, space around, space between, and space evenly. So these are the seven set of values of justify content, which is start and center, stretch, space around, space between, and space evenly. So similarly to justify content, we have align content also, and in this align content, it works on column axis, which is from top to bottom. So now let us declare them. Okay, okay. So here we have reduced this to, and we again will reduce. So we will only work with 10 items now. So now here let me add a line content property. So we will use as start, one second, align content start, sorry, line content end, center, stretch, space between, space around, space evenly. So these are the seven values similar to justify content, and here we have seen all of them. Now after that, one second, to start with grid on mobile first. Grid on mobile first. Grid on mobile first. So I am not clear with your question. So okay, so now after that, after justify content, align content, let us see the justify self and align self property. So what is this justify self and align self property? As I've told you in the Flexbox, in order to override the current set of rules what we have given to the entire set of item or content, so we have a property which is called as the justify self. But here justify self again applies to an item. So we will target the item number 3, dot item 3, And item 3, let us change the background so that we will it will be highlighted, and we will use the justify cell start and center. So these are the four values of justify cell. Similar to justify cell, we have align cell. So let us apply the align cell property here, and in this we will apply the align cell property to this particular item again. Sorry, align cells start. 1 minute. Enter. So these are the four set of values for align cell, which is very similar to justify cell. So here we have completed our CSS grid part, and as I've told you, one second. So okay, so the day 3 attendance sheet is also there in your live YouTube chat box. So I request you all to please fill it right here right now, and let me show you the attendance sheet also, that how it like that. So it is there on your screen, so you can use it. And so let us do a project, a very small project which I have already declared, already prepared for you, where to use the grid and flex. So it will give you a basic idea. Now we will see this in the Safari browser. Okay. So this is basically some albums. Now let us target these albums separately using the Flexbox and grid functionality. So if you see here, we have we have this albums class, which is the main class. So what we have done, we have declared grid template column, repeat autofit. If you see, I have told you autofit uses the free space also, and place your items in a very perfect manner. Autofit with min-max functionality, because here the album size is of different size, and we have given grid gap of 5 px. Now let us target the individual classes, which is the album. So here what we did, we have declared some box shadow and a background color we have given, and a padding also we have given of 20 px, which will create some space around themselves. Now what else is required here? So let us use the display as grid, and we will declare grid template column here of 150p X and one R, and inside them we will use a grid gap of 10 px. So this is how it looks. Now what else we can add? So in this album network, so let us target this. We will change the width to 100%. So this is how our page will look like. So as I've told you, this is a very simple. No. Okay. It is perfectly fine now. So as I've told you, we will be doing a very small project and see the responsiveness of. Great. See, depending upon the size of the screen, it is adjusting. So that is why it is said that CSS Grid is more responsive. So now I hope you all have filled the attendance sheet also. So thank you. Thanks a lot.